Welcome back, Time Crunch fans. I'm your host, Coach Adam Pulford. Traveling with your bike can be a nightmare or it can be a dream. If anyone listening to this podcast has traveled with their bike to a race or an event, you know that there's some stress and logistics that go into it. Because we spend so much time and money on our bike in training and in preparation for these silly events, it's important to know how to travel well so that your race isn't ruined before it even starts. Minimizing stress leading into a big event will increase your chance of performance, full stop. Here to offer up some bike travel pro tips is professional rider and vlogging expert, Kerry Werner. Kerry, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, well, I've known you for some time now, Kerry, and I'm always a big fan of the comedic but also insightful videos that you produce out there from your bike adventures, fixing your bike, and all things bike related. But for our audience who may not know you, could you give us the bullet points of who Kerry Werner is and who is at K-Dubs did what?
Kerry Werner started riding his bike when he was 15, kind of got into doing, was into mountain biking and road biking, and then found my way into the national team and started doing some international stuff with USA Mountain Bike national team in 2008. And that kind of once I was exposed to that upper level of the sport, it really lit a fire under me to oh, that's what's possible. So it's this is what I should be training for, as opposed to just winning the regional stuff that I was doing. I grew up in Pennsylvania doing the Mid-Atlantic Super Series races, which still happen and they're still awesome. But it's if you don't step outside of that regional bubble and you're good at it, you think oh, I'm on top of the world. And for me, I went to World Champs as a junior in 2008 in Val di Sole, Italy, and finished 3 laps down. And Mark Gullickson was the national team coach at the time, and he told me years later, he was like, yeah, dude, I didn't see a lot of potential in you at that point.
At least
and so I just stuck with it and kind of had that motivation. And then for mountain bikes, I went to school at Lees McRae College, where I got exposed to some of the upperclassmen were racing cyclocross. And as a sophomore, that's where I fell in love with cross, and that's still my favorite racing discipline to this day. So yeah, fast forward now, while I appreciate the professional racer accreditation, I don't actually have a contract to ride my bike. I currently work for BikeFlights full time, but luckily my job's flexible enough that I am able to still train, and I focus mostly racing mountain bikes and cross races. So I'm in the middle of the cross season right now.
So as we transition into all things traveling with your bike, as you mentioned, you work for BikeFlights, and I think it's important for people to know that this is not a paid for advertisement. When we're kind of drumming up this idea of me talking with Kerry, our marketing and editing producer was like, hey, talk to Kerry, because as a former CTS athlete, CTS coach, and we've traveled around the world doing bike things, we have some good experiences, both good and bad. And now that you work for BikeFlights, I think it's important to just equip our listeners with all the information out there so they can do whatever to ease themselves into the event and have the best outcome possible. So that being said, to kind of frame up the conversation, I think there's probably 3 bins that we could put our listeners into. That first bin is somebody who travels with their bike already and they're just looking to improve their packing skills or travel technique with tips or something they may not know. Then the second one is they travel to bike events, but they really need tips on what's the most efficient way to pack my bike. I'm a little scared there. I've only done it a few times. How can I improve myself? And then the third one is wait, what? Travel with your bike? I just rent it when I go there, or didn't even know you could travel. So let's kind of operate with those 3 bins. And first of all, when we're talking about just traveling with our bike, Kerry, what does that actually mean? Like, you got to take it all apart, put it in something. Walk us through that process a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, typically, whether you're shipping or flying with your bike, you have to containerize your bike, which means a myriad of things depending on the container you choose, like, and the bike you choose, like your typical road bike, mountain bike, it's usually like both wheels get removed, pedals, seat post, typically handlebars. And then, like if you've got your tri bike, that gets really complicated with all of the triathlon bars and the cable routing. So like they make specific cases for that. And some are very big and heavy. So air travel might be tough. So shipping might be an option, but yes, in general, like you containerize your bike, either check it in on the plane or put a shipping label on it, and that's how it goes.
So in terms of containers, let's first start with bike cases, and then we'll talk about a box, because a lot of people who travel with it, they're like, wait, a box, is that actually any better? Like, what's the advantages there? But from a bike case standpoint, maybe give us your top 2 or 3 recommendations. We're brand neutral on the podcast, so you can say whatever you want. Give us your recommendations.
Yeah, I think you and I both have a fondness for Evoc cases.
Mm-hmm.
I have a case that I think I bought back when Evoc was just kind of like getting going back in like 2015,
Mm-hmm.
and I still have it, and it's seen some shit. So like I kind of endorse Evoc. They come out with a bunch of new innovative products, and Evoc's good. Dakine, Pika.
Mm-hmm.
Shimano makes a good travel case. Basically, I mean, like, what you want to look for in a case is that it protects your bike. There's a good amount of padding for not only your frame but also your wheels. And then like accessories make a big difference. Like Evoc's wheel pockets, different pockets inside the bag. Thule make their new case is actually really nice. I was talking to a friend, and he said it seemed maybe a little bit heavy,
Mm-hmm.
but they have great like accessory pockets inside, which is nice because then you don't have to worry about like having a parts box or something. You just like stuff your things in. Because personally, for me, I like to take my bike apart kind of or like the things off as much as possible, like
Mm-hmm.
as little things that could get hit or damaged. I like to take those off. So like rotors, derailleurs, usually the chain, sometimes water bottle cages, like
Mm-hmm.
anything that could cause like a contact point and leverage where it could easily be removed. I like to take those off.
Those are solid talking points, exactly the way I would do it. Yeah, I'm a big fan of the Evoc Bike Bag Pro. I actually had to look up which version of the one. I actually have like the Bike Bag and then the Bike Bag Pro. I have 2 of them. Big fan. I've been using them forever, and their simplicity is good. But it is a soft shell case with hard like places for protection. I've also had the Thule like clamshell.
Yeah.
It's good, and a lot of people think that hard shell must be better, but not necessarily, because with a clamshell, I actually broke a bike. Like I packed it poorly, and they always like flip it open and throw it in randomly too, but like it
Yeah.
just got compressed too much and it cracked the seat tube on a bike because I just
Okay.
had like so much stuff in there. And whoops. So it can happen, and if you don't pack it properly for the case itself, you run into some problems.
Well, and even if you do, like it's like a dreaded nightmare when you get to your destination and you open the case and you see that TSA slip in there, and you're just like, oh shit.
The
Especially
worst.
like I used to travel with those clamshell cases, and they're
Hmm.
sick because they're super protective and they keep everything really snug. Like
Hmm.
once everything's in there, it's not moving. But yeah, if you don't pack it right and you've got like your axle is pushing through foam on a tube in the wrong spot, and then they pile 20 suitcases on top of it, like
Yep.
I almost think that the clamshell case gives people this idea that your package is indestructible because it seems that way. So then they kind of treat it like that, like,
False
like with a
sense of
soft,
security. Mm-hmm.
yeah, with the soft case, they might actually try to handle it in a better way.
Yeah. One case, not to spend a ton of time on cases, but one case I had on my list, but before the show, Kerry gave me some insights on it, is the Shikon like Aero Comfort case. The reason I put it on there was to talk about how give some options for those who have integrated handlebars, much like your Mog, Kerry, where you can't take the handlebars off to fly with it. But and I've worked on teams in the past where we've had Shikon. I've only flown with it a handful of times. Always had good luck. But like, what do you think about the Shikon case there, Kerry?
Yeah, so we actually have a pretty popular video that I shot last year on BikeFlights YouTube channel called "Boxes and Cases We Recommend,"
Mm-hmm.
and part of that video is boxes and cases we don't recommend,
Mm-hmm.
and that one actually falls into the category of we don't recommend because BikeFlights has been around since 2009. We've seen a lot of weird stuff come through the shipping system. With that, we also, like we have a claims department, and our claims department sees the most incidences of claims with the Cycon cases, particularly because you're right, they're super easy to pack. I've seen and had them in my possession. I think for the video, we actually ordered one like off of Amazon and then returned it. So like they're super easy to pack, and they have that good internal skeleton to pack onto, which makes it easy. I think the problem is with the handlebars sticking out. It just like adds this lever point and this point where like when things are square and kind of like fit into a space really nicely, I think that's when like everything's uniform. I think you see a lot less problems. But then with that case, you've got the handlebars sticking out. I think like those, at least the early cases, lacked like additional padding, so we were seeing a lot of cracked like seat stays and chain stays and stuff like that. So yeah, it's just based on experience with the shipping thing, and I don't know. There a lot of European teams use Cycon. I know they're big over in Europe, like the world, like there's some world tour teams that are like partnered with them. So yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, and again, I bring it up. I've always had good luck, not to poo-poo Shikon, but like they have good stuff, but I didn't know that interesting fact. And on this podcast, we just try to equip people with knowledge, data, and talking points. So make your own decisions out there. But Kerry, we're going to move away from the bike cases and talk about a bike box, because a lot of people may not know that you can fly or ship in a bike box. I didn't know that BikeFlights actually offered several options of boxes. So walk us through why you'd want to choose a box over a case and what some options are.
Yeah, so I mean, initially, like you'd choose a box over a case because you're like, hey, I'm gonna travel like one time or two times this year. Like, I don't need to spend $600+ on a case. They're big. They
That's a
don't.
good point. These cases are not expensive, up to $1,000 probably on a good
They're
one.
not cheap. Yeah.
Sorry, yes, they are not cheap. Thank you,
Yeah.
Kerry. That's why you're here, to make me better.
No, yeah, so they're pretty expensive. They don't like store super easily. They're often big and bulky. And so like, you can get a box for as cheap as free at your bike shop. Usually bike shops hang on to cardboard boxes throughout the week until they recycle. They're always getting boxes in as they get bikes shipped in. So I always go that option when I sell a bike or sell some wheels, call up my bike shop for like a one-time use box kind of situation. So that's a thing. BikeFlights does offer 4 different size bike boxes as well, and these are kind of like this intermediate step between like the bike box and a case, because they're guaranteed for two shipments. So if something happens in those first 2 shipments, we'll send you a new one. But they're kind of patented, designed, and they come as like a top and bottom cap with walls, and the walls accordion. So the whole thing folds together and comes like drop ships to you in like a 4 foot by 7 inch by 8 inch package, and then you build this box. And so that means like when you ship it or fly with it, when you're done with it, you can collapse it back down and store it. So
that's good. I mean, you can order a box from BikeFlights or head to the local bike shop, pick one up. I know I always keep a couple wheel boxes and even like one frame box on hand in case I'm selling something or I need to
right.
ship it or travel personally. But walk us through, for someone who's never used BikeFlights before, walk us through, this is like the process of choosing like location of where you pick up, where to send it, shipping label. Are you UPS or are you a standalone entity? Like, tell us the process of BikeFlights.
Yeah, so I mean, dude, this is what I do all day at events. So basically, you containerize your bike. That's your responsibility. That can be an existing box or case you have, like an Evoc case. It can also be a box that we provide. You buy from us, we'll drop ship to you. Or you go to the bike shop, you put your bike, you pack it, or your wheels or gear or whatever. You pack it, and then you go to our website, bikeflights.com. You answer, just like there's a shipping form to fill out. It's just where you're shipping from, where you're shipping to, the dimensions and the weight of the box or case that you're shipping. We have a drop-down menu that has preloaded dimensions for all the popular boxes and cases and some of the not so popular boxes and cases. There's a pretty extensive list there. You add insurance to your shipment, which is always recommended, adding market value. That way, if something happens to your bike in the shipping process, we have a claims department that works with you, and we usually pay out claims within a week once they get approved. So it's like a pretty easy process that has a dedicated team for. And then, yeah, once you enter that information in, you submit that. The next page, you pick whether or not you want to schedule a pickup, or you can. That's $5. Where your normal UPS driver will get a ping, and they'll just pick it up off your doorstep on their normal route. Or you can drive it to a UPS store and drop it off for free. You'll pick your ship date. And then the next page, I think you describe your box and case, what's in it, and then you pay for it. So in reality, I've made labels in probably less than 3 minutes before.
Yeah.
Then after you pay for it, the label usually arrives. It'll be less than 5 minutes. Usually it's like within 2 or 3 minutes. You print that out and slap it on your box or case, and then you either drop it off or set it out your front door for the UPS person. So we ship with UPS. We're contracted with them. We have a specific contract to ship bikes and bike related gear. So the big takeaway that I'd love listeners to have in their back pocket is that if a problem does happen, you'll reach out to our dedicated customer support staff, which is not UPS. We have contacts within UPS that we reach out to solve issues, but our staff you're going to have a much smoother, quicker, kind of uplifting experience with our staff than if you did just like walk into a UPS brick and mortar store, ship with them. First of all, if you do that, you're going to pay 40% more.
Yeah, pay a lot more. Yeah.
But then if something happens, you're going to call UPS corporate, and you're going to go through about 20 different phone tree options and probably still not get the answers you're looking for. So
yeah. So I mean, the process, as I can attest to, the process is good. I'm a big fan. I don't always do this, and so there's a lot of benefits in shipping the bike. Some of the drawbacks for me is like if you maybe don't have the time, like, and that's just like planning ahead, which I can do a lot better sometimes, honestly. And what that means is, say you're flying out on Tuesday, probably have to pack up your bike ready to go and ship it on Monday, or maybe on Sunday, the day before. So you don't have that bike for a couple of days. If you have
probably Friday, to be honest.
Probably Friday. Yeah.
Depending on where you're going,
But that's the point. It's like plan ahead with whatever this event is. You may be bikeless for a few days, or if you have another bike, ride that one. But just so you know, probably the one drawback to shipping is essentially that from a
Yeah.
planning standpoint.
Yeah, I mean, you can definitely ship it next day. You're going to pay for that service. Like we have next day air, we have 2-day air. The ground service, which is coast to coast in 5 to 7 days, like, yeah, you're going to be without your bike for 5 to 7 days. So we always recommend to plan like 2 days buffer time too. So, just in case there are weather delays somewhere, we are susceptible to like what happens in UPS's transit system.
But overall, it's a very good, cheaper way to do it. And as I like to say, when I ship my bike, I feel like a bike baller rolling through the airport, just like freedom.
It's sick to roll through the airport with just a small carry-on roller bag or just a checked bag, and like not have that stress of like, is my bike going to make the connection? Is TSA going to repack it? Okay. Are they going to find the CO2s I hid in the seat bag?
Yep.
Yeah.
All that stuff. And I mean, all the, the horror stories from flying out there. It's like, just know that stuff can happen. I recently had a friend, I shared this with Kerry. He had a brand new S-Works Epic mountain bike, and brand new. He flew on an airline, got it back. The whole bike was broken in half, and even the crank was broken in half. Like effectively just got ran over. And he was in a soft-sided case, but like it was an Evoc case, but overall, like nothing's going to sustain it being driven over. So anything as extreme as that, to maybe the bike doesn't show up because of the airline or whatever. I mean, there are problems that can happen when you fly, and in the way of shipping, you have somebody that's actually cares about the product itself. I think, from what I understand, all the people at BikeFlights also like are bike people. They ride and are in that culture, right? So they care about it. It's a bit more curated process. But for those, so as we kind of like drum up the cause or why you should ship, let's talk about like international shipping. I mean, if Kerry, if you're going to do Cape Epic, would you ship to South Africa? How would that work?
Yeah, I mean, it works just the same as you would ship to any address in the U.S. So we just need a physical address. BikeFlights ships to over 60 countries. South America is off limits just because they're kind of everything works on a barter system down there. Like there's a bit of corruption and instability. But yeah, so I don't know off the top of my head if we ship to South Africa. I'm thinking maybe we do. But yeah, you just enter a physical address, the same ship form that you'd go to ship to California as you would for anywhere else. The difference is once you enter an international, even if it's Canada, once you enter international address, you're going to work with our dedicated international ship team, just because we're going to need passport information, travel itinerary, just a bunch of different documentation that we prepare for customs ahead of time. And so that's where things are different than like if you fly with it, right? Like if you fly with your bike to California, it's no different than flying with your bike to France. You just do the plane ride, get off the plane. With shipping, once you cross a border, we're dealing with duties and customs. And so you work with BikeFlights to prepare this documentation up front so that process moves smoothly and it doesn't get hung up and held and examined or there's additional fees. Like they want to make sure you're not selling it in the country. So like if you have a round trip shipment, that smooths out that process. Because everybody wants a piece of the pie.
And the other thing to mention too is if you're flying internationally, I mean, it's kind of common sense, but also if you're shipping the bike to a hotel or a bike shop, call them and say, I am shipping this to you. Here's
Definitely.
the name. And again, you just plan ahead. It seems commonsensical, but sometimes it doesn't happen. And in that way too, I should mention for kind of these three bins of people that could benefit from this conversation. It's like the first two, you pack it down and into your own case or box, you ship it or fly with it. And I'll talk about like that bin number 2 who really wants to be getting more savvy about how to do that. And that's our next list of talking points. But for bin number 3, those who maybe have never done it before, didn't even know that it could exist. I've even had athletes roll up to their local bike shop, like Conti's Bike Shop here in DC, hand off the bike. They already have a box curated, or do you have a box that I could use? They'll disassemble it, pack it, ship it to that location. You still have to work with BikeFlights in order for the logistics end of it, call the hotel or wherever it's going to, or ship it to another bike shop, have them unpack it, build it for you, and away you go. So again, how much planning versus how much doing you actually want in this process. Like, I'm trying to enable everybody that if you're not tech savvy or mechanical savvy, you just employ the people that you want, plan ahead, and
Right.
you can do whatever you want. And riding your own bike at an event, in my opinion, is far superior than renting or riding someone else's. That's my own personal opinion.
Yeah, and I mean, there's definitely I've done a video on this rent versus fly
Mm-hmm.
with a bike, also on the YouTube channel Bike Flights, but all kinds of factors to consider here. I mean, there's definitely this like convenience over cost factor. Like you were saying, you can be totally hands off with it. Just walk your bike into a bike shop, fly to where you're going, walk out of a different bike shop with your fully built bike.
Bike
You're going to be,
baller.
yeah, that is baller for sure. But on if that happens, you're going to be paying for the first bike shop to pack it. You're going to be paying to ship it. Then you're going to be paying for the second bike shop to build it. And then if you're traveling backwards, you have to do all those in reverse again. So it's like maybe not the most costly way to do it. But if you don't want to bother with either learning how to pack it yourself, or just like don't have the time, like that's just what you do.
Exactly.
I feel like there's kind of a piece of the puzzle for everybody there.
Exactly. So for bin number 1 and 2, those who are either pretty good at doing this or they want to learn, Kerry, I'm guessing that you also have some videos of how to disassemble your bike and pack your bike in various cases. Where would our audience find those and how to access them?
Yeah, I'm going to share the link with you. So I think you said you would put it in the video description,
Yep.
but the Bike Flights YouTube channel is a great resource. We have a playlist for packing and disassembly. So yeah, most of those videos are hosted by me. Some of them are a bit older, but yeah, we go through how to pack and assemble for different boxes and cases, including our own boxes. So
Yeah. Some of my tips is like, now that I've done this a few times, I have honed down my tools necessary for the disassemble and the reassemble without all the fluff and stuff. And I keep those tools in a separate Evoc little tool pouch. It's about, I don't know, it's not super small, but it's not giant. You don't need a ton of tools to do this. And then my advice is, if you're bin number 1, the person who's like getting really good at this, or bin number 2, that advice is like, identify those tools that you need in order to get the job done. Throw out the ones that don't need, because it's about weight and redundancy. Get rid of those, and keep that separate from the main tools that you're using on a regular basis, so that it's always with your bike case. And that, for me, cleans up a lot of the efficiencies.
yeah, that's a good idea. I recently did a video on 5 disassembly tips. So
Hmm.
it was basically just like the 5 things that, like, if you know how to do these 5 things, then you can pack and ship your bike on your own. And it's just like simple stuff like removing wheels, removing rotors. All of that stuff is like a one Allen key process or a one tool process kind of thing. So
Yeah. Well, Kerry, this has been awesome. I think with those video links too, like all this is just meant to set people up to start planting the seeds of how to do this better. Because, like I said, if we can minimize stress leading into a race or an event or a week long bike journey, it's like that race, that journey, that ride, it's going to go way better because you're not worried or stressed about the bike in transit, how to build it, all this kind of stuff. So, in a roundabout way, this is a skill and technique that can really improve someone's experience and performance on a bicycle, even though we're not talking about intervals and FTP and all that kind of stuff. So, I'll give you the last word here. Is there any other tip or advice that you want to provide to our listeners on the whole travel like a pro?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's not intervals, it's not training, but like stress mitigation is a big part of how to perform at your best. And I think, we covered a lot of different points on how to do that. I think the biggest thing to keep in mind when traveling with your bike is just planning ahead. Like
Mm-hmm.
maybe the week before you're planning, you just sit down, and whether you're writing a list out or typing a list out on like, what does this look like for me? Like, am I going to have to go to a bike shop to have them pack it, to ship it, or even pack it so that I can fly with it? Or like, what day should I start packing it so that, like I've never done this before. Like I want to try it. What day should I start doing this so that if I have questions or problems, like I can reach out for help. I'm sure that if you're in the cycling world, you've got a friend that has packed a bike, like reach out to somebody. Like
Yeah, that's good.
hands-on stuff is always better. Like I always learn better like if somebody can be there to show me. YouTube University is great, but sometimes like it's better to like have somebody like, well, like, wait, don't do it like quite like that. Like so yeah, just I think planning ahead is probably the most efficient way to get the ball rolling on traveling with your bike. And if you ever have questions about the BikeFlights service, the staff is there 7 days a week, so don't hesitate to reach out.
Perfect. Well, thank you, Kerry, for taking time today to talk to me and our audience about all this bike packing stuff. So if anyone wants to follow you on all of your adventures, where should we send them?
Yeah, I mean Instagram's a good place, and Kerry W24 on Instagram, and also my vlog channel on YouTube is just Kerry Werner Vlog on YouTube. So
Excellent. Well, we'll link to those social connections as well as all the video links that Kerry has queued up for us. And I really encourage anybody who, has traveled with their bike before or they're thinking about it, like do what Kerry has said here. I mean, watch it, practice it, get someone who knows what they're doing to come in, but like practice, practice, practice so that it's stress mitigation. So, Kerry, thank you again and good luck this weekend.
yeah, man, thanks for having me on.